So, hello and welcome everyone to another session of NL Recess. Today we have with us Ms. Rana Safi, who is a writer and a historian. Today we will be discussing one of the books from her trilogy. It's called Shahjahanabad, The Living City of Old Delhi. It's a book that takes you on a journey through one of the Delhis that was and is, and there have been many Delhis. That why do we call it a living city?
In the case of Shahjahanabad, this is a city with a continuous history. It, after being populated by Shah Jahan in 1648, there are many people who still claim to have been from that time. You can see the buildings, you can see the continuity. So it's a living city. It's not a city like, say, Siri, which now nothing of the original remains, or even Tughlaqabad, it's just an abandoned fort. So those areas are abandoned and not flourishing, whereas Shahjahanabad, for whatever it is, in whichever shape, it is no longer the magnificent city that the Mughals built, but it is still has a link to the past. And
if you could talk a little bit about the Orpheus panel in Qilai Mubarak, because I just found that like very fascinating.
It's one of my favorite portions from that book. That is just behind the Nashimane-Zille Ilahi, or the throne of the emperor, the throne of the seat of the shadow of God on earth. Now, when Shah Jahan built the fort, it was.
Do we know like who were the people who were involved in the planning of the city? Was there some sort of like organized effort towards?
It was the same team that built the Taj Mahal.
Okay.
The same team, the same Mukarram Mat Khan, who was the supervisor, the same Ahmad Lahori, who was the architect, and Ustad Hamid. And you still have the kuchas, like the kuchas, there were kuchas named after them. Wherever Ustad Hamid lived, there's the kucha Hamid over there. And you had Ahmad Lahori, who is the main architect, as we know, of the Taj Mahal. So it was the same team that came and built. And, there were guilds who would make, and we know that because we can see guild marks on the stones. And that is in every city, whichever city. And I think this is something that is very Indian, because even in the older ancient architecture, wherever there are surviving temples and forts, you can see guild marks. But especially guild marks you can see in Fatehpur Sikri, Taj Mahal. And you know that it is these guilds who are supplying stones. So that mark is there for easy accountability. So in those days, even without computers and laptops, we had an efficient accounting system.
I want to talk about the role that the Mughal princesses and the queens had in building architecture.
Today, when you think of Shahjahanabad, the first thing you say is Chandni Chowk. That was built by Jahanara Begum. Of course, today what we call Chandni Chowk is a whole street. Now that street originally was divided into three parts. You had the first part was the Urdu Bazar, then you had the Johri Bazar, then you had Chandni Chowk, and then you had the end of it, which was Fatehpuri Bazar. So today it's just a generic name. But that original Chandni Chowk, which was in front of what is now the town hall, was built by Jahanara. And up next to that was a Begum Ki Sarai, which would have rivaled any 7-star, or I don't know how many stars you have, whatever the maximum star that you have for a luxury hotel, because traders and ambassadors from outside, merchants would come and stay there. And apart from that,
tell us a little bit, like our subscribers and everybody who's watching, a little bit about Ghalib and his love for mangoes.
Ghalib, of course, his love for mangoes is a very famous story, which is, I think I've given that, where there's this, they're sitting outside and there's this donkey who passes by, and he, just sniffs at the mango peels, and another one says, gadha bhi nahi khata aam. And Ghalib says, ji haan, gadha hi nahi khate aam. That's my favorite story. And all these are recorded in Abe Hayat by Altaf Hussain Hali. And another story is
the 1857 watershed moment in Indian history, the mutiny. After that, what did that mean for the monuments of the city?
See, 1857 was fought by the Indian sepoys from within the walled city. And very early on in the uprising itself, the Indians lost their position on the ridge. The ridge was controlled by them. The ridge is where Delhi University is. The ridge was controlled by them, but they lost it in one of the early battles. After that, the English pitched their tents there. Now they were on a high ground, and they were fighting against the Indians or the Hindustanis who were locked inside the walled city. The story of Jama Masjid actually is the story of Delhi. of those times, from say 1656 when it was built to 1847. You can see the story of India in Jama Masjid.
So while like during the process of researching and writing for this book, did you come across like any hidden monuments that you discovered, like
Biggest discovery that I made was not the structure but the poem. You referred to to poetry earlier. For me, the biggest discovery was that the verse "Agar Firdaus barruwe zami ast, hami asto, hami asto, hami ast" was not written for Kashmir. It was written for the Red Fort. So for me, I keep telling everybody, no, this is not Kashmir. This is written for the Red Fort itself by Wazir Sadullah, Allami Sadullah, who was the Wazir at the time of Shah Jahan.
Mufat khoro, muft mein itna hi milega. To watch the full unedited interview, you have to subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free. Because when the public pays, the public is served. We depend on you and not on advertisers. So go to www.newslaundry.com/subscription and subscribe and get all our unedited interviews, our special video shows, comics and everything that's behind the paywall. Remember, to subscribe to News Laundry, you pay just about 10 rupees a day. That's less than, well, no, a cigarette, and smoking is injurious to health. So subscribe and watch the full interview.
if you were to be reborn as a historical figure, which one will you be?
Jahanara.
Lovely. Tell us a little bit, like our subscribers and everybody who's watching, a little bit about Ghalib and his love for mango.
They're sitting outside and there's this donkey who passes by and he, just sniffs at the mango peels, and another one says, gadha bhi nahi khata aam. And Ghalib says, ji haan, gadha hi nahi khate aam. That's my favorite story.
How can I, as a common citizen, devote my time and resources to preserve our history?
Be a responsible citizen as far as your monuments are concerned. Just be responsible for the monuments around you. A monument is not just bricks and stones. It's also something that has seen a lot of life inside it. So when you preserve that, you also preserve that particular culture. You can start at any age. Whether young, old, whatever, it doesn't matter. You just need the passion. I tell everybody who asks me, how do I become a writer? How do I do this? How do I do that? All that you need is a passion for your work.
Thank you so much, Jana, for taking out the time to speak with us. Thank you, everyone, all our subscribers.